Let us start the revision of engineering mechanics. To find the resultant forces for two concurrent force system, we have two laws, parallelogram law and triangle law. If we form a parallelogram using two force vectors, then the diagonal of that parallelogram is a resultant force vector. And for triangular law, if we draw a triangle using the two force vectors, then the resultant is third side taken in opposite direction. Now for many concurrent force system, the condition for static equilibrium are summation of horizontal component of forces equal to 0, summation of vertical component of forces equal to 0, and the summation of moment about a point is equal to 0. And the condition for dynamic equilibrium are summation of horizontal component of forces equal to mass times horizontal component of acceleration, summation of vertical component of forces equal to mass times vertical component of acceleration, and summation of moment equal to moment of inertia multiplied by angular acceleration. And for these equilibrium conditions, if the number of equations are equal to number of unknowns, then those equations are sufficient to solve the problem and are known as statically determinate problem. And if number of equations are less than number of unknowns, then equations are insufficient to solve the problem, and this system is called statically indeterminate system. Now for three coplanar concurrent forces, we have Lamè's theorem, which states that force A by sine alpha is equal to force B by sine beta equal to force C by sine gamma. Remember, this can be used only when three coplanar concurrent forces are present. Our next topic is trusses. In trusses, the relation between number of links and the number of joints is m is equal to 2j minus 3. If m is greater than 2j minus 3, then the truss is statically indeterminate, and if the m is less than 2j minus 3, it's not a truss. And if it satisfies the condition m is equal to 2j minus 3, then the truss is statically determinate. Now let us test the condition for this truss. Here the number of joints is equal to 7 and number of links is equal to 11. Now if we substitute these values in this equation and 2j minus 3, 2 into 7 minus 3, which is also equal to 11. So the condition is satisfied and the truss is statically determinate. Now there are two methods to solve the problem of trusses. First one is method of joints and second one is method of sections. In method of joints, first we need to draw the FBD of joints of interest like this, and for every joint as a concurrent force system, there are two equations of equilibrium, that is sigma fx equal to 0, sigma fy equal to 0. So to start the analysis, choose a joint where there are no more than two unknowns and solve for each joint to get the values of force in each member of the truss. Now there are some cases of zero force members where for 3-member joint, if two forces are in 180 degree to each other, then the third force will be equal to 0. Now the second method of we divide the truss into two separate entities by a section line such that each section has at least two joints and do not have more than 3 unknowns. Then we consider each section as a coplanar concurrent force system and we get three equations of equilibrium, that is sigma fx is equal to 0, sigma fy is equal to 0, and summation of moment about the point is equal to 0. Now since three equations are present for a section, we can solve all the three unknowns to get the value of forces. Our next topic is friction. When a force is applied on a body, the resisting force is called the friction force. There are two types of friction, static friction and kinetic friction. When the body is stationary, the friction is called the static friction, and when body is in motion, the friction is called kinetic friction. And point where body is just about to move, that state is known as impending motion. Now there is term called coefficient of friction, which is equal to friction force by normal force. If we take a block on a horizontal surface, then the conditions for sliding are: if applied force is greater than friction force, then the body starts moving. If applied force is less than friction force, then the body is stationary. If applied force is equal to friction force, then the body is impending. Now let us analyze the condition for tipping of a block. For this block, if applied force multiplied by H is greater than weight multiplied by X, then the box will start tipping. If applied force multiplied by H is less than W into X, then the box will not tip. Now the next topic is kinematics. Here, if X is the displacement of the body, then velocity is defined as dx by dt, acceleration is defined as dv by dt, which is equal to d square x by dt square, and this can be further modified to get a dx is equal to v dv. Now the formula for solving kinematic problems are: b is equal to u plus at, b square minus u square is equal to 2ax, x is equal to ut plus half at square. All three formulas are derived from these three equations. Now let me discuss key concept to find out the value of displacement for different cases of acceleration. If the given acceleration is constant, then we can use these three equations. If the acceleration is the function of time, then we need to integrate dv from v0 to v and f of t dt from 0 to t. From here we get the value of v in terms of t, which we need to integrate v dt from 0 to t to get the value of x. Now if acceleration is given as a function of velocity, then we will use the equation v dv is equal to a dx, and we will integrate v dv by a, which is function of velocity. Now the fourth case is when acceleration is given as function of displacement. Here also we will use same equation v dv is equal to a dx. We will integrate v dv from v0 to v and a dx, which is function of f of x, from x0 to x. So these are the four cases for different acceleration to find out the value of displacement. Now let us see kinematic equation for rotational motion. Here the displacement x is equal to theta and linear velocity is equal to r omega, and acceleration is of two types: tangential acceleration and centripetal acceleration. The value of tangential acceleration is equal to r times alpha and the centripetal acceleration is equal to r times omega square. The kinematic equations are omega equal to omega naught plus alpha t, theta is equal to omega naught t plus half into alpha t square, and omega square minus omega naught square is equal to 2 alpha theta. Now formulas for projectile motion. The time of flight Tf is equal to 2v0 sin alpha by g. Height of flight is equal to v0 square sin square alpha by 2g, and the range of flight is equal to v0 square sin 2 alpha by g. The range is maximum when alpha is equal to 45. Now the next topic is kinetics. Here we will use two equations, sigma f is equal to ma and sigma m is equal to I alpha. Remember that I is mass moment of inertia, not area moment of inertia. Now the value of I for different cases is: for particle rotating about the axis, I is equal to mr square. For a rod rotating about center, I is equal to ml square by 12. For a rod rotating about the end, I is equal to ml square by 3. For a disc rotating about the center, I is equal to mr square by 2. And to calculate the mass moment of inertia about any other point, we can use parallel axis theorem, which states that IA which is axis about which we want to calculate the moment of inertia, is equal to I plus md square, where d is the distance between the two axes. The next topic is conservation of energy. In engineering mechanics, the energy is equal to sum of kinetic energy and potential energy. And for solving problems, we use work energy theorem, which states that the change in kinetic energy of the body is equal to the work done. Now the value of kinetic and potential energy for different cases is: kinetic energy for body in translation is half mv square, and kinetic energy for body in rotation is half I omega square. The potential energy of the body due to gravitation is equal to mgh, and the potential energy stored in the spring is equal to half kx square, where x is the value of displacement. Now let us complete the left out topics: the linear momentum, linear impulse, and collision. We can find out the momentum using Newton's second law, where F is equal to ma, which can be written as derivative of m into v. Now we have conservation of momentum, which states that initial momentum of the system is equal to final momentum of the system. Then the linear impulse is defined as I is equal to integral of f dt from t1 to t2, which can also be written as the difference between the final momentum and the initial momentum of the body. Now let us end this revision with different cases of collision. The first type of collision is elastic collision, and the second type of collision is inelastic collision. In both the type of collision, the momentum is conserved, but the kinetic energy is conserved only in elastic collision, not in the inelastic collision. Now there is a term known as coefficient of restitution. It is defined as the ratio of difference between final velocities to that of initial velocities. This coefficient of restitution is equal to 1 for elastic collision and less than 1 for inelastic collision. Since in both the type of collision the momentum is conserved, we can use the formula m1u1 plus m2u2 is equal to m1v1 plus m2v2. But kinetic energy is conserved only for elastic collision, so we can use this formula for elastic collision only, not for inelastic collision. However, we can use this formula for both the type of collisions. If the value of coefficient of restitution is given, then we can substitute it in this formula and find out the unknown velocity. So this is the end of revision of engineering mechanics. Thank you.